What's going on, guys? Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 characters we believe are in Smash Ultimate, and it's going to be a good one because it's going to be pretty interesting.
Alright, so we're going to go from 5 to 1 and, just give our opinions. Me and Cosmos have similar opinions in some areas and different opinions in others. So, to start things off, my number 5 is Pac-Man. I've thought this character was pretty strong for quite some time now. I mean, having him at number 5, I don't think that a lot of people have Pac-Man that high. A lot of people will say and agree that Pac-Man's top tier, but not like put him in the top 5 area. He has he's a zoner that is like a really strong zoner because you set up environmental traps on the ground, being hydrant. So you force your opponent to either interact with the hydrant, and a lot of characters, if you don't have a move that like is very quick and can't just disarm the hydrant, I think you need to do like 14% to put it in tumble, then Pac-Man can hit the hydrant after you hit it, and it becomes this whole dynamic thing. So one, it's just that whole aspect of the character is very unique, and in previous iterations of the game, the Smash 4, he didn't have that many great boxing options, but in this game he has like that frame 3 nair, you do that out of shield extremely quick, and now in this game also you can Z-drop his items and they maintain the item priority. So you can Z-drop the bell and it still gets the stun. It was not like that in Smash 4, so it's incredibly strong for multiple reasons, right? And I mean, obviously we see T really taking the character in the tournament environment, but yeah, that's my number 5. Just it's an usual case of a character that has great like mid-range to long-range tools, but they also have the boxing options as well, kind of just everything you need for a character.
That's fair, that's fair. My number 5 is going to be Palutena, and before I talk about Palutena, I'll say that I was pretty close to putting Pac-Man in number 5 too, but the main reason why I didn't put Pac-Man as number 5 is because there's not really much character representation, so I'm not really sure how hard or how consistent multiple people could be with the character, because T's like the only Pac-Man I see being crazy with Pac-Man out there. Like he does very well, but like I don't even get to see him play too much because he's usually in Japan, and even in Japan he's not like super consistent winning everything or anything. He still loses to like a couple like people. Like I remember he lost to a Yoshi, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure he lost to a Yoshi at some point. So like he's not completely consistent, so that's why I don't have Pac-Man in my top 5. But Palutena's in my top 5 because you usually see her pretty much in every like major setting. There's a Palutena somewhere in top 8 or in top 16, or there's a Palutena that's doing very, very well, because Palutena, in my opinion, is a very consistent character. She's a very easy character to use because her combos are very easy. She's a very flowchart character, but even though she's a flowchart character, it doesn't mean that like even if your opponent knows what you're gonna do, they can like super counterplay it, because there's not too much counterplay that'll pretty much like nullify Palutena, if that makes any sense. Like even just your regular flowchart game plan is very effective in just getting what you want done, just like canceling out whatever like most characters want to try to do in neutral and stuff. And she's very good at edge guarding. She's very fast. She doesn't have too many ground options, but it doesn't really matter too much because her dash attack is really, really good on the ground, and like her short hop is very fast to where like you can tomahawk characters fast enough and like abuse tomahawks in place of your grounded attacks, if that makes sense. So that's why I think Palutena is number 5.
Yeah, and I mean, probably would have been higher if she didn't get nerfed. Obviously, Palutena's up there in terms of like one of the characters that got nerfed the most. I wouldn't say like
2
super,
or 3 times, right?
Right, and like some of the things that got nerfed about her were very powerful. Like the down throw back air was probably the biggest one, right? And then they did some other small changes like making dash attack laggier, but that to me doesn't really matter. It was laggy enough to punish anyway. And then the grab range was probably the next big one. What's what?
Pac-Man never got nerfed, huh?
Nope. Pac-Man, Rob never got nerfed. Like there's a lot of characters that flew under the radar.
Rob was really close. Rob
it was close.
Rob never got nerfed.
Never got nerfed.
That's crazy.
But on to my number 4. So a lot of people said this character was falling off. I've had high opinions of this character for quite some time, and I feel like a lot of people think that so my fourth is Wolf. I think a lot of people think that this character's meta has been completely pushed, and I completely disagree. Footstool in general into up B is a huge tool that we don't see too much in competitive play. We see players like Charlie pulling it off here and there, but not to the like super consistent end of it. And yeah, like there, even like the combo game, you know, Charlie has recently discovered, you know, up throw back air if you DI out, so now you're DIing in certain scenarios and stuff like that. Like there's a lot to be pushed about the character, especially the punish game. I feel like the neutral game for the character got figured out pretty quick. The neutral and the advantage state was like pretty simple, and it's like, okay, well, like it's pretty obvious why he's good in those states. But the combo game can still be pushed with like shine combos and all that stuff, and footstool as well. And one of his bigger weaknesses is not the quickest out of shield option. You have a pretty quick grab out of shield, but the range isn't that great. So when you put footstool out of shield into the mix, I think the character can be very strong.
Wait, does Wolf have footstool out of shield mix-ups? Oh yeah, footstool up B, right? That's what he has.
Yeah.
Dang,
This guy's a top player,
crazy.
by the way.
I've never gotten hit by it, so
Yeah,
I don't know,
mean,
man.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It is very obscure. It's a very niche thing that we don't see too much in tournament. Like I said, I've seen some Twitter clips here and there of Charlie doing it, but it's very hard to do footstool out of shield because the timing differs depending on like how pancake the opponent is and stuff. You essentially need a double jump by their head. So like some characters you can get a frame 4 footstool out of shield, where other characters, like if they're standing really tall, you have to delay the double jump and stuff like that. So don't get me wrong, it's really hard, but I do think that's you know, going to be a huge part of the meta for a lot of characters.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm going to agree with you on that because I also have Wolf at number 4. The reason why I have Wolf at number 4 is probably similar to the same reason as Palutena. He, in my opinion, is one of like the most consistent characters in the game. Like overall, like he's very well-rounded in my opinion. The only thing that he has over Palutena, I believe, is that like he has a better projectile and he has a better ground game. Because he has really good tilts, like his forward tilt's really good, his down tilt's really good, his up tilt's really good for killing. They're all like very fast tilts. And his dash attack's pretty good too, but just in general, like he has tools to box with you when he's near you. When he's on the ground, he has tools to box with you, or like to air you if you're trying to air him, because his arrows are pretty much sword attacks because they're disjointed, like forward air and air are very, very good up there. And on top of that, if you want to play the slow game, he has a very good projectile that goes through literally everything and can camp you out too, which is it's a very important tool to have whenever you're like playing against characters like Sonic, or just camping characters like Sonic, Samus, Pac-Man, characters like that. So he can pretty much play against every character archetype, which is really important in my opinion.
All right, so next, number 3. I have Pikachu here. I used to have Pikachu as number 1 for quite some time, especially before Pyra Mythra came out. Actually, well, Joker has been in my number 1 for quite a while. So I guess before Joker was in my number 1, it was Pikachu, but it still took a while for me to see that.
So you had Pikachu, and then Joker passed Pikachu. Is that what you're saying?
Right, before. Like when Joker first came out. Then eventually,
right.
And I thought Pikachu, I just want to put this disclaimer out there. I thought like year 1 I had Pikachu as the best character in the game. So
he did. I can confirm.
People called me crazy, bro. People called me crazy.
He was saying that.
So,
but you also say Fox is trash, and you aren't crazy for that.
I'm also crazy for that, yes.
Yep.
And
Spoiler,
actually, well, now I don't say that. Now I don't say that because Fox can't get buffed. I just did that just in case I could get a Fox buff. I did get a Dare buff.
Yep. Spoiler, Fox is not in either of our top 5s.
Yeah. So Pika, I think, can fall off the more the game advances, just in the fact that people's SDI gets better. But even in a world where everyone's SDI is amazing, I still think this character is really strong because of the character has one of the strongest out of shield games. Not only is it really quick, it hits very low because the character's short. You have quick attack, which repositions you in disadvantage state, which is like insanely strong for this character. There are angles, like the only counterplay is 2-framing, but there are angles that you cannot 2-frame. like literally impossible to 2-frame with quick attack. So there's still a lot of growth for the character, and for me, a lot of these top 5 characters, like, you got to be really good now, and there has to be room for growth. And I still think Pikachu has crazy room for growth, even though, like, you're going up against the SDI factor.
I agree. I also have Pikachu at number 3. It's really hard for me because whenever like it gets into the top 3, I feel like all the characters are so close because they're all very they all have a lot of things with very they all have a lot of positives to them with very little negatives to them.
Right.
Which is like I don't really see too many negatives about Pikachu, with like the only thing that's like his aerial mobility is not that great, but it doesn't really matter too much because you still have quick attack to like close distance when you really want to, or like disengage when you feel like you need to. But he's probably the best, one of the best. I don't want to say he's the best edge guarder in the game because he is really, really good at edge guarding. I'll probably say that he is the best edge guarder in the game just because he can go really far out when he's edge guarding, but on top of that, his moves last a really long time because he has most of his areas are multi hits, like his forward air and his back air. Both of them being multi hits makes it a lot easier on him to like edge guard whenever he's out there trying to read an air dodge or something, or even if he doesn't need to do that, he has a downer that spikes really well and is really fast. So the fact that he's really good at edge guarding, and the fact that he has a projectile that he can follow on the ground to cover his approach options makes it a lot more ambiguous how he's going to approach, because it gives him a lot more options. And then he can even approach with quick attack because quick attack can also be a combo starter at times too. There's just a lot of things that are very, very good about Pikachu that can also be explored more, like Charles said. But I just feel like it gets really hard to compete with the top 2 characters because they also have a lot more things, but they're also just like they have a lot more like of the top character factor, which I don't really know how to explain, but like they have DLC factor.
Yeah, like Pikachu's like biggest strength is gonna be the offstage. You also have Thunder to kind of catch opponents double jumping and stuff like that. But that, I mean, edge guarding in general is the riskiest form of advantage state. Yeah. So you have to keep that in mind.
But it's very, very, very rewarding.
Yes, it's definitely the highest risk, high reward type of advantage state. So you know, if you botch
and like that's the
Pika,
thing too. It's like it's usually. Like, for most characters, it's, like, very high risk, high reward. But when I think about Pikachu, I feel like for him...
It's lower risk for,
It's, like, medium risk, extremely high reward. Because the way I, like, categorize very good edge guarding, or a character that's very good at edge guarding, is how long can they stay out there, but also how fast can they get back to the ledge after they're done trying to edge guard. And Pikachu can get back to the ledge the fastest out of anyone.
I think like low percent edge guards Pikachu is like insane at, and even like higher percent. But I off the top of my head, the only other character I can think of that's like might be a little crazier or could compete is like One Wing Sephiroth. One Wing Sephiroth, you know, obviously the counter is like really good.
I feel like
fair is insanely good.
When I was thinking about it, I was thinking that Joker was almost as good as Pikachu when edge guarding, just because like his moves are really fast. And really big.
Down gun, insane, right?
And down. Oh, don't get me started.
I actually think Steve is pretty OD at edge guarding too. But okay, we're definitely going. But bro, those blocks though. Okay, so my number 2 is going to be Joker.
Okay.
This is tough for me because Joker and my number 1 kind of like bounce back and forth for me. It's like, I feel like Joker's more well-rounded than my 1, but yeah, it's like, so Joker to me, you don't have it all, but like Arsene is just so crazy. You get an average of like 1 to 2 Arsenes per stock. So when you think about an entire game, you're getting like 3 to 6 Arsenes. That to me is so wild.
So
Down gun,
when you say
they get nerfed.
You don't have it all, What do you mean you don't have it all?
Well, you know, the Arsene recovery is pretty exploitable. Like, there are certain pockets or like I wouldn't say very specific scenarios, but there's specific scenarios where you are weak, right? Like, oh, you got Arsene, they hit you off stage, and like you cannot double jump to ledge. So it's like when you're forced to double jump into air dodge or up B to the ledge, most jokers are going to burn their double jump to like throw a side B, or they'll throw a side B, then they'll like double jump side B, or like they can double jump swing upward and then they can up B, right? The biggest exploit in my opinion about Joker is the fact that when you get them into Arsene and they're recovering to the ledge, if you just 2-frame them over and over, you can like drain the Arsene while doing damage. And if you're damaging Arsene while Arsene is out, the chances of a second Arsene is reduced, right? And that's why like jokers don't mind camping with their first Arsene, because if they remain at 50%, then the next Arsene is going to come at around like 100, 110 or what have you, right? So that's why jokers don't mind camping out that first Arsene, because if they keep the percentage low, the second Arsene chance is very high.
To be honest, I actually didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so I mean, and I really hate how small Joker is. Like his dash animation's crazy, his short hop, or just like his aerial animation.
A lot of stuff.
Yes, like this character is very hard to hit, scrawny, and like is heavier than Wolf or the same weight as Wolf, around there. Like maybe they're pretty close, but like that is so heavy for a character that is that hard to hit. As where you compare to Pikachu, Pikachu's smaller, but like way lighter, right? So it's like Joker, I don't know, and like you can get low percent gimps too, but Tether in general is just really strong because there's like different mix-ups you can go for. Like the Tether is way better than the Arsene recovery in terms of just general, but like distance-wise, it's Arsene. But yeah, that's to me that's really Joker's only weakness. Like, because even a lot of people will say out of shield he's not that great, but when you start doing footstool down gun out of shield, all of a sudden this character is like, again, we're talking about characters that still have room to grow with like within their own meta, right? So yeah, to me Joker is just absolutely crazy. Like his offense always blows my mind with just Arsene.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I'm gonna have to put my number 2 as Pyra Mythra. It's really hard when because Pyra and Mythra, like, they're a very, very, extremely strong character. But there's a lot of things about Pyra and Mythra that can be exploited a lot better. Like, just the fact that Pyra and Mythra don't have the best recovery in the game. Like, the way I relate their recovery is like, it's kind of like playing Cloud and Smash, where like if you just try to camp the corner and get them off stage, it's like a 30 to 50% chance that they can just die if you're really good at edge guarding. And one thing is that like playing both of them in the corner is not as easy as you feel it can be, especially if you're playing, like, if you're stuck on Pyra in the corner, like you're at Pyra in the corner, it's hard to get out of the corner, which makes it easier for your opponents to get you off stage and get you in that edge guarded situation. But like that's like probably one of, if not the only downside about Pyra Mythra, is that like just everything like being hard off stage. But like if you're playing mainly Mythra, it's hard for your opponent to get you in that situation because you're literally winning neutral the entire time, because Mythra's neutral is literally like second to none to like anybody. Like maybe Sheik might have a better neutral, but I can't even think about that because Mythra is just faster. She has a lot more like bigger hitboxes. She has bigger hitboxes that are pretty much just as fast and have like less animation lag, if that makes sense. Which makes it a lot easier for you to like throw out a lot more attacks, a lot more tilts, even a lot more smash attacks. Her smash attacks are way less laggy than like Sheik, which makes it like even scarier for her to approach you in neutral, because she can just approach you with the forward smash, and if you're not ready for it, you just won't be able to punish it at all. And on top of that, if you're playing if you're playing Mythra and you like just win a couple exchanges, it still does a lot of damage because Mythra does a lot more damage than the Sheik does. Sheik has to get a lot of hits, but Mythra, like most of her, like her up B, Mythra's up B does like 15-16%, and it's like her main combo ender. So like usually when you get a combo, like you'll probably get them to like, you'll do a couple of hits, end with up B, and they'll probably be at like 30-40, and then you'll get a couple more hits, and then they'll be in disadvantage, and then you'll switch to Pyra, and then you'll just like be playing Pyra with her really big hitboxes, even though she has like not the best aerial mobility and she's pretty slow. The fact that she's floaty and can stay in the air for a really long time helps her a lot whenever she's trying to like juggle you and like keep you in her frame trapped area, if that makes sense. So just the fact that like Pyra Mythra has a lot of things like this, like the fact that they have really big hitboxes helps them for like edge guarding too, and like ledge trapping as well. It's like they pretty much almost have it all, in the sense that like they're really good at pretty much everything. Like they can wall you out, they can approach you, they can zone break, they can zone you out, they can play slow, they can play fast. The only thing that's really hard about them is just like whenever someone is camping the corner and forcing you to guess when they're in the corner, when they throw you off stage, it gets really hard to like play in that situation because you're really scared of being edge guarded.
Yeah. And so, you know, no surprise, our 1s and 2s are pretty much switched. So my 1 is Pyra Mythra and Cosmos's 1 is Joker. And I mean, we're pretty much at this point just comparing the two. And I think Joker is the more well-rounded one. And then Pyra Mythra, like the things they're strong at, they're probably some of the best characters in the game at like almost all those categories. Well, so like for me, the reason why I currently have her at 1 over Joker is because I believe Mythra has the strongest neutral in the game, and having the strongest neutral in the game, and also like Joker has better landing, but Pyra and Mythra still have decent landing. Like their aerials on shield aren't the greatest, and they don't have something like down gun, but they're both their nairs
because she is a fast faller.
Right, and both their nairs are like disjointed. You know, put hitboxes around them. You gotta have some kind of disjoint to beat it out. So I still like, obviously their recovery is not really like a top tierish recovery, but
it's not bad.
Right, their disadvantage state isn't like god awful, but like they still have multiple air dodges with switch and stuff like that. So yeah, I just really value at the moment, like it's really hard for me because both these spots can switch like they're so close to each other.
Switching. They will be switching over and over again, honestly.
Right. It's like they're just so close at the moment. I just think Pyra Mythra are just a bit stronger. And I also think Pyra Mythra have a lot of tech that people don't really use because at the moment they don't really have to. But like Mythra can do roll cancel grabs, and you can like do option selects with Foresight. I think Foresight's like crazy because I believe it's frame 2, right? It comes out?
Yeah, it's frame 2.
So you have a frame 2 air dodge, and like usually that's crazy because like you can get out of situations, but Mythra is a frame 2 out that like reverses the situation and usually get a hit off of it. So
the only thing that I forgot to mention this, that like because like it's really good in a lot of situations, but the only thing that bothers me about that is that like whenever I'm in a situation where I'm like boxing or I feel like they haven't like, you know, that situation where like you hit someone and they shield and then they try to hit you and you shield, or they spot dodge or whatever, and like it's like a rinse repeat. Sometimes Pyra Mythra is, or Mythra specifically, is not that good in that situation because they can just grab you because of the fact that your Foresight is from frames 2 to 7. They can't. They can grab you from frames 2 to 7, whereas most characters will be able to spot dodge on frame 3 and get away from the grab, which makes it a lot harder to get out of situations like that. But
you make yourself more susceptible to grab to have more advantages against attacks, essentially.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, even like Foresight being able to like getting guaranteed Foresight on multi-hits on shield, changing the range of your threat against projectile characters, where it's like, okay, well, I can like react to your projectile and roll in. Like, I think that stuff is super broken. Reactive Foresighting is like OD crazy.
It's really good.
And then like the roll cancel grab I'm talking about, like you can essentially roll and then cancel your roll into a grab. So it's an option select where you beat shield and attack at the same time. So if they like swung out of their shield, you foresight and punish, but like if they stayed in shield, you grab them. And I know that's like an option select that Mythras aren't using yet. The character, I mean, is still pretty young. And then there's even tech with Pyra where after you hit a side B, you can skip the sword grab animation with the tail end of your air dodge, and if you do it like close to perfect, you can actually follow up after the side B into a Pyra up air, and like comboing off that move is like OD.
There's like even tech where you can cancel the catch animation of side B just with your jump squat frames. So like you can like in your jump squat you catch the sword and it won't have the animation, so you'll be able to like rise forward there instantly.
Yep. So stuff like that, and like that's already a really strong move. The character has received like very tiny buffs, or nerfs, very small nerfs, but yeah, I think the character still has a lot to grow as well, like with any of these other characters in top 5. But very close for me.
Joker got slight nerfs too, but they weren't really anything that were like really major, because I think his side B was the only move that got nerfed.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. But the reason why Joker is my number 1 character is because I always say this. I always feel like Joker is the only character in Smash Ultimate that is designed to not lose. Like whenever he is losing, he literally gets better. He can camp you, and he gets meter. He can down B to get meter. Use Rebel's Guard to get Arsene faster. And Rebel's Guard is like frame 3 too, so you can use it like out of combos that you can air dodge out of. You can Rebel's Guard instead to get Arsene meter faster. But the fact that like the thing that's always crazy to me to think about is the fact that like Joker as a character is very, very strong, like even without Arsene. Like he has pretty good frame data, like pretty good stats, but like the fact that like whenever he gets Arsene, that there's literally no caveat to Joker outside of just his up B being a little bit more susceptible
that
to
one
like,
situation.
That one situation. That's the only situation. But even then, it's not that major of a situation, because his up B is still good. It's still good because it goes really far. It has invincibility on startup. It's not like super free to 2-frame. Like it's like a lot. Like it's top players will be able to 2-frame it decently, consistently, but like they have to be already positioned to punish the up B. And the fact that like that's the only situation that makes Arsene worse, when everything else is like 2 or 3 times better. Like his back air is just as fast, but it's like much stronger. Everything does more damage. He has the best counter in the entire game, on top of also having a reflect too that's really strong, like has a high reflect multiplier. His side B goes further. He has better projectiles. His gun is really, really good, especially when you're like trying to edge guard someone off stage. It's just the fact that like Arsene is that strong when Joker's already like decently strong on base Joker is why I feel like he's very, very strong and the best character. On top of like whenever you're losing as Joker, like what I always think about is like I always think about like the mental side of the game too. So like whenever I think about that, I always think about like how like when you're losing, like when you get Arsene, it's like an indicator that like you're losing really bad and something needs to change. So it's like a mental indication that you need to change the way that you're playing in game. And on top of that, your opponent seeing that too, like he gets Arsene, it's like he's gonna change the way that he's playing too, because they're scared that like Arsene's gonna make a comeback, essentially. And then I also feel like when you have Arsene, Joker's probably one of the best edge guarders in the game. Like I almost compared him to Pikachu, but I do think Pikachu's better just because he has longer lasting hitboxes. But the fact that like Joker's back air is really, really fast,
back air and counter
extremely early, counter to like mess with up Bs and stuff, and gun just to like mess with anybody off stage, creating like pretty much a moving wall essentially, is like just extremely. It's something that's like kind of unheard of that I haven't seen, and I still don't see many Jokers using effectively, because like a lot of the stuff that Joker can do is like very intuitive. He's not an easy character to play by any means, which is why I also feel like he has a lot of more room to grow. But I just feel like whenever like Joker is like tapped into, he's a very, very well-rounded character with a comeback factor and a snowball factor, if that makes sense.
All right, guys. Well, that was me and Cosmos's top 5 characters in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Let us know what your top 5 is. Just right down there in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe as well. But I'm really curious to see everyone else's top 5. This is like a pretty common question in Smash Ultimate. So yeah, let me hear your hot takes, or if you got more standard stuff too, let me hear it. But until the next video, peace out.